Hello everyone, today we are going to animate a walk. This is not a walk cycle tutorial, this is a shot with the character starting from the stopping position and then going into the walk and then stopping at the end. Now when we are dealing with real shots, it's very rare that we have situations where the characters are just walking across the screen and that's the shot. Usually we have the character going into the scene, making some steps in the scene, or maybe going off screen. So this starting and stopping is very important. Now here is what you will learn by the end of this 4-part video tutorial. You will get an idea of how much time does it take for me to animate the shot of this length and complexity. So it's going to be roughly 150 frames and I'm going to use the character Stella. How I analyze reference and why sometimes you need to reshoot reference and what I think is important to include to enhance realism so you can use this knowledge to animate shots of feature film quality. Okay, so the plan for this video is to talk about planning a little bit and then do some high-level blocking. I'm going to use this character, which is called Stella. This is Animation Mentor character. This is my school. I'm alumni of Animation Mentor since 2017, and I strongly recommend this school to everybody. So we are doing a walk with start and finish. In order to do this, we can't just rely on information from Animator Survival Kit, which will tell you what your poses should be for a walk, what the timing should be for a walk and stuff like that. For this shot, we need to do video reference. So this is the first video reference that I shot. And you can see the first problem that we have with this video reference. The character is going out of screen, so we don't have enough frame to stop the character. And I can shoot the starting position here and then the stopping position around here, but it won't give me enough time to animate the walk itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot 2 video references instead. First will be just the start of the walk and the second will be just the end of the walk. So I did that and here are these references. I'm not going to talk a lot about video reference in this video. This is a subject for a completely separate video. Here, I'm just going to quickly show you how I did this in case you're wondering. So you go to Create, you go to Free Image Plane here, and this is your image plane. And then you go to the Attribute Editor, this button right here, or Control A on your keyboard. And then in the Shape node, if you have a video file for your reference, you need to go and select Movie here, and then you just pick the video on your hard drive. If you have an image sequence, you need to select Image File here and pick the first image and then check this button, Use Image Sequence. But as I said, this is a subject for a different video. Here all I did was just selecting these video files which are already in sync with each other. And let's see, we have front here and we have side camera here, 2 main cameras that I'm going to use in order to animate this walk. And here in the scene I also have a shot cam. This is just a cam, it's locked right now, and this is just the camera that we're going to use in the final play blast. Now the last bit of setup before we start actually placing keys is to set up the stepped tangents here. So I go into settings, I'm going to animation, and here I'm going to select linear, and here I'm going to select stepped. Okay, so let's start the animation process itself. So what we need to do is I'm going to select this global control here, and I just want to find on what frames we can place our storytelling keys, our main keys. Sometimes they're called golden keys. So obviously frame 1, which is the start of animation. Around 20 or 21 should also be a storytelling key. So I'm going to pick it here. So all this is going to be an anticipation, a preparation for the walk itself. And then, so this is the last frame when the foot is on the ground. So I'm going to key this, and then the next would be the contact, the first contact. And then after that, all this movement, all the contacts for each foot are going to be our storytelling keys, which I'm going to go back a little bit later. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So what is exactly happening with the body? So you see this rotation of the hips, rotation this way, this is an anticipation in preparation for going the other way, and we can see this in this front view here. Going to move this arm a little bit so it doesn't distract us, and let's see what's going on. So here is this rotation and anticipation screen right, a little bit of anticipation screen right. And then after this anticipation, the hips are going to start going screen left, so that we can free the weight from this side of the body in order to pick up the foot. But what I'm seeing in the front view is that the movement of the hips screen left is actually starting earlier, not on the frame 20, it's starting right around here, from 17 to 18. So I'm going to, instead of picking this key, number 20, I'm going to pick this key. So I'm going to delete this one, and this is going to be our anticipation screen right, and then this is going to be the start of the motion. And this is the last frame. Yeah. What we did just now is super important, because we now have an understanding of what we're going to start with. So I'm going back. I have this neat little picker. Depending on what character you are using, you might have or not have the picker. This is not a big deal, really. I usually use pickers mostly with the face, because there are so many controls in the face that they're difficult to select. Here, I'm just worried about this button select all, and maybe, you know, if I need to select the fingers and things like that. So if you don't have this, this is totally fine. What I also did is I have this button that selects everything, so I can key everything simultaneously. So let's start with the first pose. Here I'm going to hide IK controls because I don't need them. And let's see what's going on here. So there is a little bit of weight shift to this side here. So I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do a little bit of this, because I'm watching this angle right here for the hips, and then I'm going to select spine, and I am doing the contra posture for this. I'm going to select this button here so I don't accidentally select the polygons of the character. So anything I do, I'm going to check against this camera. The feet are a little bit out, like that, and This foot is a little bit in the front of another one. I'm going to use these controls as well, because the feet are rotated. And let's see. A little bit back for balance. I'm going to drop the shoulders because the hands are down. And then let's go ahead and pose the fingers as well. We have a little bit of penetration right now, but that's fine, that's okay. Having a little bit of penetration between the areas of the skin sometimes is completely fine, even if we don't have the controls for deformations in the muscles of the rig. It still gives us a little bit of a good contact here. So sometimes we don't want penetration at all, depending on your technical specifications, on your pipeline. Sometimes it's completely fine to do this. And this angle right here, I'm going to drop it a little bit more. And this is really when you start to understand how different are really the rigs from humans, and how it's difficult sometimes to relay the information from video reference onto your rig. So if you see, the hand in the video reference is on the hips here, and here the hand is much lower, and just the proportions are not human in this character. So I'm going to reverse this neck here, and then I'm going to introduce some of the head angle. And I think that we should also introduce some Y rotations, because this leg is a little bit forward here. I'm going to rotate the hips a little bit more, but I'm going to select the spine, and I'm going to rotate the spine back. So we have a tiny bit of a twist. So this arm is a little bit forward like that, and then same thing with the fingers. This is where the picker can be really handy. Let's see how balanced this pose is. It's slightly out of balance. I think I can do more with the rotations here. And also you see what the leg is doing. I think we can replicate that. Let's take a look at what we have here in terms of the controls. A foot roll does this, and this is the side. So this is this control for the side to give this a little bit of the angle here. So I'm going to just introduce a little bit of this angle right here. Maybe do something like that. And the head, I think it's fine. I'm just going to drop it just slightly. Or instead of dropping it, I'm going to raise it a little bit, like that. And that's about it for the first pose. So I'm going to select all, and I'm going to press the S key so I can key all the controls in every channel. Let's select this control to have a clue where we set up the next key. So I'm going to select everything here, and I'm going to press the S key. So I set up 2 poses right now, and let's see what we need to change from one pose to another. So just cycling back and forth. Okay, so I have this motion, a little bit of this motion over here on this side, this rotation, and then I have the preparation for the walk itself. So I have this rotation as well. Because the spine is dragging a little bit behind, I'm going to drag it a little bit behind as well. Because nothing in animation is moving all at once. I think I'm going to introduce even more rotation here. And because this is an anticipation, I'm going to shift the weight slightly in this direction here, so that later I can shift it the other way. So it's going in this direction right here. I'm going to exaggerate it even more. Like that. And because I'm shifting this other direction, I'm going to straighten this angle a little bit like that. And I'm going to select the spine. And I'm going to straighten this a little bit like that. Now let's see what the head is doing. So the head is follow align 1, which means that if I rotate the body, the head is in a little bit of an IK mode, which is what I want. Okay, so I'm going to think about the neck as well and just drag it a little bit. And just watching on the head angle, as you can see, the head is going a little bit down, but we're not going to worry about this right now. We'll come back to this later when we're going to do the advanced blocking in the second part of this video. Right now, what I want to do is just to have like a layout pass, a high level blocking pass for this shot. Okay, what's the next pose? Right before the contact. So this is where it starts to get really important. So I'm selecting everything and I'm pressing the S key, and let's go and see what's going on in the front view. So a couple of things happening. First of all, the weight is shifting in the screen left direction. It's not completely shifted yet, but it starts to shift. So we can free up this side of the body. So I'm going to do this as the main thing, the main motion. And maybe I'm overdoing it a little bit right now. We'll see. The second thing is going to be going a little bit higher. So this is also very interesting. Just look on the torso here and you can see that the torso is rotating screen left. Why is the torso doing that? It's doing that as anticipation to the next move, to this move right here. So nothing can move without anticipation. And I can see that this twist is being done, almost most of this is being done in the spine. Yeah, the hips are doing actually the other thing. So the hips start to rotate this way to give the spine the momentum to rotate this way as well, and then they go back. So they're doing just a little bit of the reversal here, like that, and I will select the spine, and the spine will go this way as an anticipation. Also, because we went that way, I'm going to drop the weight a little bit, and I'm going to counter this a tiny bit here. Probably I need to do this even more. And we need to keep the head relatively level. Oops. And if you can see how much is the up motion here, you can see that it's more than I'm doing. So I'm going to make it slightly higher. But I also want to watch out for this leg overextending here. So I'm going to go back and check this in the perspective view here and see how much I can go up from this. I don't have a lot here. So what I'm going to do is that instead I'm going to go to the graph editor, select the translation Y, and I'm going to instead drop this . We need to check what's going on here. So I'm going to drop this like that, and this is hopefully giving me more of the up momentum here. Let's see what the foot is doing. This foot. So this foot is also helping. So it's going up like that. And I think it's also going to the side. It's a tiny motion to the side. This motion, a tiny bit of this motion. And then I'm going to use the foot roll, but in the other direction, so in this direction. And when I'm doing this, you can see that I'm giving myself a little bit of way here to go even higher. So this arm is going out a little bit like that. And we need to drag this part. I would drag it even more. And then I would drag this part as well. And then maybe introduce some of these rotations as well. And this arm, let's say it's also going a little bit back here. Actually, the reason why this arm is going back is that the torso starts to rotate this way and this arm is just staying behind, basically. Going out a tiny bit. Like that. Nothing is going to be perfect at this stage. We just need to do some high-level blocking poses and define how much steps do you want to do, when the animation is going to stop, how much frames we will have, and things like that. So let's move on to the next pose here. And I'm going to set the key again on everything. And this is the start of our walk. And by the way, let me see. Yeah, here we started to move in this direction, just a tiny bit forward. And we continued to rotate the body in the direction moving forward, just a tiny bit. So in this pose, the character is fully in balance. In order to walk, we need to throw the character out of balance. This is the only way that people can walk. As you might know, walk is a controlled fall. So we're constantly falling and we're using the momentum of this motion to help us propel forward. And if you're interested in physics behind this, definitely check out my video where I talk in depth about physics in animation. So this is the fall, so we are going down here. And you can see this in the reference as well. I'm going to switch to orthographic view so you can see this better. And you can see this line here and where the hips are. Going down. And we will adjust the amount of going down all the way until the end of the animation, even in polishing. We'll still do that. Okay. So we need a straight here. We need to introduce some foot roll. I'm probably going to remove some of this foot roll a little bit. Okay, so this leg, so this is the contact position. In theory, contact position is the position when everything is balanced, because you have two contacts with the ground. But in reality, the contact position is the position just before the foot is on the ground. However, let's take a look of what's happening here. So normally on the contact position, I will zero out the translation of in X, and then I'm going to rotate the hips like that. And then I'm going to counter this movement here. The next thing is that I'm going to do, just focusing on the hips here, because this leg is in the front and this is in the back, as you can see, the hips are starting to rotate with the legs. In reality, it's the hips that are rotating the legs. So switching back to perspective, let's see how much I want to do this. I think right around here would be fine. Maybe even more. Like that. And when I did this, you can see that this became more angled, and I think we need to make the stride a little bit wider. And also take a look at what's happening with this leg. So this leg is picking up, and then it's not put into the same plane. It's shifted almost to the center of this walk trajectory, almost to the center. And I can see that my character is now not in balance, so I'm going to bring it back. And then the hips went that way, they were rotated by us, and by the legs this way, so I need to counter this with the spine. The torso is heading into the different direction, and so are the arms. You can see that the arms are going back here, but then they start to go forward. So a little bit of the forward motion here. A little bit of drag for this. A little bit of drag for this. And this arm should be going the other direction, like that. And I'm also going to introduce this angle here. And this rotation that way. For the spine, I'm probably going to rotate this control a little bit more. And yeah, I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to do even more with this, because we're still in this phase of acceleration for the walk, so I'm going to do a little bit more of angling forward. And then for the head, I need to keep the head straight. But the angle doesn't change too much here. Changes even more, like that. And I think it's a little bit of a personality thing right here, which I personally don't mind. Yeah, I think this arm is going much more back than I'm doing it right here, so I'm going to do this as well. I'm not seeing the arm from this angle, so it's not helping too much, but still I'm going to do this. So here I'm going to bring the shoulder a little bit in because we're rotating the arm a little bit in, and I'm going to bring the shoulder out a tiny bit because we're rotating it out. Okay, we have the first contact position, and maybe just a little bit more straight on the leg here. So let's see how much frames it actually takes on this stage of the walk to do a full step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 13. Yeah, 13 frames for this step, and then it goes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12. Yeah, so it's probably going to be 12 after this step. Okay, let's move the character in Z, and I'm going to do the foot roll here. So what I'm doing here is I selected this channel and I middle mouse click and drag in order to adjust this control. And then this leg going in this direction. So let's see. And this foot roll is going to be another way. So I'm not too worried about the exact placement of this foot yet, because I want to take a look what's going on in the front view here. I'm going to push this a little bit to this side. And what I'm also going to do right now is zero out the rotation Z. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to simplify this motion a little bit at this stage. So on all contact positions, I'm going to zero out rotation Z for the hips and also for the spine. And I will explain later why I'm doing this. Oh, I can explain now that it's close to zero in contact positions, but just to make it more simple, I'm choosing zero value right now. The walks are very technical, so it's not as artistic animation as the other types of motion, so we need sometimes to keep it a little bit mathematical, at least on the blocking stage. And then we'll see if we need any adjustments. So I rotated the hips in Y. Okay, so let's see And in the spine, I'm going to rotate the other way. And we'll start to swing the arms as well. Also rotating the shoulder out. Let's see what the rotation we have here. Oh, it's Z. What's with Y? Yeah, we can do this. And even more. And for this arm, going to rotate it forward and rotate the wrist as well. And this one will rotate out. Let's check what's going on here in the orthographic view. The shoulder as well. We will work more on the shoulders when we will be doing the blocking plus stage. And then with the neck, and with the head. Okay, so we have this rotation X in spine, and I'm going to keep it this way for now. You know what, maybe I'm going to bring it a little bit back. Oops. This is the rotation X in spine. That was the head. So I'm going to bring this a little bit straighter, because now the walk is already in motion, so we don't need to bend forward as much to gain the momentum to start the walk. And with the spine, I will probably bring it a little bit back as well. I'm going to place 0 here in rotation X for the spine, which is maybe a little bit too much, so just bring it a little bit back. Something like that. The head is still tilted a little bit. I can do 0 here, or I can do... Let's make it 0 just for simplicity, and then we'll adjust everything later. I'm going to speed up the video for the next 2 steps, because I'm basically just repeating the same stuff that I just did for the previous 2. Okay, it's time to bring back the second video reference that I have. So I'm going to select these two and I'm turning off these two. So this is the stopping, this is the video reference of the stop. The problem is right now is that this video reference is starting from frame 1, so I need to bring this reference into correct position. So our last pose was on 74. And on this pose the right leg was forward and the left leg was back. This frame, frame number 1, should happen 12 frames after this one, because in 12 frames the legs will be switched. So I'm going to have one more pose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to have one more pose here, and from 86 my reference should start. So let's go ahead, select this reference, and we'll go to the attribute editor or Ctrl A on the keyboard, and let's see, frame offset should be -86. And let's check. On 85 there is no movement, 86 is the first frame, and then 87 is also no movement, which means that I need one frame less here. So there is no movement on 85, and then on 86 this is the first pose, and then the movement continues. So -85 would be the frame offset for this, and for this we need the exact frame offset so that they are in sync. And let's block out this step. Let's bring the reference closer to us. This reference I don't need to bring closer because it's in orthographic view here, so it doesn't really move. And this shot cam is going to prevent us from selecting control, so I'm going just to hide it temporarily. Bring the knees forward. Let's go back to the side view. Rotation Y, 0 out, make it more. Foot roll here as well. It's actually pretty big foot roll. Okay, one important thing that I want to make very clear here. You can see this line here, this line of action. So this is the moment when the character decides to stop. And we need to preserve this, we need to preserve this angle. So I'm going to rotate the hips that way a little bit more. And we need to rotate the spine as well in X. But before we do that, I'm actually going to zero out everything here on the spine and then rotate it a little bit back and then rotate it this way to oppose the leg. And you can see here that I'm overdoing this, the spine. So let's see how we can pose the spine so it looks a little bit more natural. Let's go back to the perspective view and see what is going on here. Because we have so much rotation going backwards in X, and we have rotation here, it starts to affect the overall angle. So I'm going to bring this angle a little bit like that. So we're not falling anywhere. Something like this. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that's fine. This is what animation is all about. Once we block every pose, we will start to see how this movement reads, and we'll readjust anything that seems too much or maybe not enough. Don't forget about the shoulder. It's going up, and this shoulder is going out and a little bit down. Okay, perfect. Selecting everything, pressing the S key on the keyboard to lock down all the keys. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I would say, yeah, the walk is starting to slow down because on the 12th frame, it's already a full contact. And overall angle, you can see that this angle, we don't need to maintain this angle still. We can start to go back a little bit on this pose. And I think the spine will go back as well. And then propel forward. So in this pose, the foot roll is definitely much higher than usual. And note how different this pose is from the usual contact position. The reason is because the character wants to stop instead of going forward. I'm going to even do something like this. Maybe reduce. These angles will never be the same on the character and in the radio reference because the length of the legs is not the same. And of course, don't forget about the rotation, like this. And then rotation of the spine. Going to zero out the Y here and rotate it back like this. Rotate the arms. This elbow has the momentum, so it's much more rotated in this position here, because the character is stopping, but the arms are still want to go forward. And again, we are in the situation when we need to adjust the Z here, because there is still a considerable amount of rotation X back, and because this rotation is offset with this Y axis, we need to bring back the Z a little bit. Bring in this arm as well. Rotate it out like that. Let's take a look at this leg. This is one of the small details that I want to start thinking about here. And you can see that in this frame, the leg is not completely on the floor, while in this reference it's on the floor, it's touching the floor. The reason is because the cameras are not shooting simultaneously. They have a little bit offset from each other. But I want you to pay attention to this angle, and I'm going to replicate this angle like that, and this will make this leg slightly bent, and I still want it to be more or less on the straight side. So let's see, we have this step left, so let's do this step quickly, making sure that everything is keyed on this frame, and then key everything on this frame, and then see how small this step is compared to the previous ones, something like that. Foot roll at 0. Foot roll at 0, side at 0. Still we have this tilt backwards. It's still working, because we need gravity to work for us, not against us, in order to stop the motion of moving forward. So zero out this, a little bit rotation here, and I think because these legs are longer, I'm going to make this tiny bit longer stride as well. Yeah, I'm making this stride probably too short. So it's probably going to still be like that. zeroing out this, and this angle is also needs to be preserved. Even the amount of rotations are nowhere near what they were during the walk. This swing back is pretty big because the character is using the arm as well to shift the center of gravity back. Let's check the Z here. Seems to be okay for the most part. Okay, if we zero this out, yeah, it's too much. Rotate this hand out a little bit like that. Rotate the hand. This pose is done for now. And what we have left here in terms of the storytelling, let's see, this is probably the contact, and this is when it starts to go down. And in this camera, same thing, contact going down. So this contact is going to be our pre-final golden pose, storytelling pose. And we still can see we need to go up because we don't want the legs to be bent too much, but you can still see there is still this inclination in the overall pose of the figure. Removing the Y rotation here. Let's see from the front. And you can see that this leg is higher and this leg is lower. So I'm going to replicate this in the pose also, and maybe in the spine as well. Just a little bit, not too much. And this foot here, I'm going to bring a little bit of, oops, that's another foot. I'm going to bring this a little bit of the side, and let's see what's going on here. Yeah, it's mostly the side and the toe tap. Maybe a little bit of the foot roll, just a tiny bit of this motion. Like that. All set. And the final pose of our animation is going to be this pose here. So we'll make sure that these legs, both of these legs are planted, so they don't have any rotations to them. Foot roll is 0, side is 0. And I also want to check about the angles of the feet. For this pose, what we forgot to do is to place this foot actually on this side for this pose, because there is no reason to stop like this. The base of support is too narrow, so we need to go a little bit wider, but we still want the balance to be on this foot right here. So I'm going to shift and drag and press the S key to copy the position and rotation of the COG to this frame. So once it goes from here to here, I'm also going to do this for this foot as well. Middle mouse, click, drag, and S. So we can go here for the balance. We can do a complete 0 in rotation Y. We can do a complete 0 in rotation Z. And from this point of view, from the perspective, I'm sorry, from the side view, we'll have 0 in rotation X as well, and I'm going to 0 out this as well. It looks like a default pose right now. Which is completely fine in our case, because this is not a shot, this is an exercise, and we spend some time on the first pose, but because this is where the animation stops, we're not going to linger on this pose. So the shot is basically over when the motion is over. Yeah, I think it's fine. We'll 0 out the rotation Y for the shoulders here. For the neck, Z and Y at 0. X I will leave for now, and for the head, 0 out this, and that's it. Okay, that's all for the blocking right now. We can do a really quick play blast. If you found this video helpful, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the second part. Thank you very much for watching.